Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Homebody Podcast. And today I am joined by Erin Kelley, a friend and colleague who I'm delighted to be in conversation with. Erin is a writer, a devotional astrologer, and an esoteric strategist with a feral heart. Her intuitive gifts for right timing is at the core of her work, which is affectionately known as Slow Magick. Erin believes desire is holy and that change happens when it's time, and that Eros is the driving impulse that connects this moment to the next. She finds a lot of joy and satisfaction in sharing her love of the divinatory arts, helping others reconnect with the magic within to re-enchant their lives. Before leaping into her second act, Erin spent over a decade creating award-winning go-to-market strategies. She now uses her instinctual abilities with her well-honed analytical skills to craft practical and effective recommendations to engage the subtle realm in your everyday life. Erin offers astrological consults, private mentorship, and is the steward and facilitator of several charmed offerings, including devotional astrology and tarot, which is a heart centered experience of the stars and cards that's grounded in everyday life, which at the airing of this episode will be open for registration if you're listening in live time. You can find Erin at Slow Magick on Instagram and on Substack at The Nature of Invisible Things. I was honored to be a guest on Erin's show a few weeks ago, back in 2025, and we'll make sure that we link that episode below as well, so you can check out Erin's Substack and listen to our other episode together. Erin, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so delighted to talk with you again.
Thank you for having me, Grace. I love that episode.
Me
It was
too.
it was so fun, and I'm excited to be here today with you. And
Yay.
thank you for such a lovely intro. I usually don't get to hear the person read it to me until the episode, and so that was
Uh-huh.
so fun.
Yes, I know. It's really fun. I love recording with you. As we talked about in the other episode that we did together, we have some similar, we have a lot of differences as well, but we have some similar astrological configurations, one of which is our Sun in Libra ness. And I think that, just a Libra is such a good hostess, and it's fun to have like two hostesses together, I think.
Hmm. I love it. Yeah.
I love hearing about, we have a lot of similar interests and orientations to the things that we like to work with. And I know you'd mentioned in your intro, in your bio, that this is sort of your second act where you're leaning into all of this devotion and magic and astrology and really making that the center pillar of your work. So you had this whole sort of other life, I'm assuming before you hit all of your midlife transits, where you were in the corporate, more muggly world. Do you want to talk a little bit about what were you doing? What light bulb went off or what squeezed you out of that to bring you into what you're doing now?
Yeah, such a storied question. I say storied because it's like layered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the image of like a house that has like a basement, a first floor, a second floor, possibly a third floor, and like an attic and maybe some hidden rooms. So like we'll see where this goes. But yeah, I got started in my corporate career pretty early on when I didn't start in corporate. I started in nonprofit community mental health actually. And I enjoyed that work. It was wonderful. But as you grow in your career, you move up the ladder, even within a nonprofit structure. It's still structured similarly to a corporation. And you get further and further away from like the skin and hair of like the meat of the work, and you get into like a little bit more of the administrative stuff. And I was like, if I'm going to be doing this, then I'm just going to jump into the corporate sector. So I did, and I started working in tech and on the marketing side. And it's not the like hot, sexy marketing we think of when we think of like campaigns and like advertising and TV commercials and all of those things. It's the nuts and bolts. It's the analytics. It's the back end. It's all the technical stuff, and I really excelled at that. Needless to say, I had a good time kind of learning that business, learning the business to business world. And I won a marketing award in like the 2010 timeframe, which then started, it was like, how do I say this? It was kind of a big deal because it was a new sector and there weren't really a lot of experts at it. And so I got headhunted and I worked for a few. Then I was on the agency world. And that's really when my career took off in the terms of like becoming a big deal to myself. And for a long time, I just kept going after it. I'm like, okay, when I get here, I'm going to really start enjoying my life. When I get here, I'm going to have, when I get the house, when I get the high-powered partner, when we become a power couple, when we solidify this client, when we close this deal, I was like, oh, and the bar just kept moving as it does. And
As
then
it does.
as it does. And then one day I was with this person who we were engaged to be married. We were vacationing in the south of France in Cannes. And here I have like everything I thought I wanted. I had the big fancy job, I had the home, I had the partner, and I was miserable. And I just remember being in the ocean or being in the sea, floating around, swimming out as far as I felt comfortable, and just crying my eyes out and being like, something is wrong. Something is really wrong. And I realized like all of those things just really left me empty. And so I had always been interested in the esoteric arts. But it was that moment that really was like, okay, I have lost myself. Maybe I really never knew who I was and needed to kind of come back to center. And the only way I really knew how to do that was like through yoga and meditation, through tarot, through astrology, through those types of things. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it got started. And then it was probably another 10 years of kind of doing various things, doing both things before I had that moment of where I'm going to walk away from this and walk into the next part of my life. I think the midlife during those 10 years, I had those midlife transits. I had the Pluto square, I had the Neptune square, I had the Uranus opposition, I had the Saturn opposition. I'm in my Chiron return right now, like all of those things happen. And so I think it was 2022. I had set a target date of May 2025 to be my walk away date. But then the organization that I was working for got acquired, and I found out in January 23. And that was the moment of like, oh shit. And it was just clear as day. I didn't need to look at a chart, I didn't need to pull any tarot cards. I knew that this was way ahead of schedule, but I couldn't see myself continuing to exist in that organization. And I couldn't see myself, like, literally, I would think about applying for another job and I would like get sick to my stomach. And I was like, okay, I guess it's time to jump. And I've been jumping ever since.
Yes.
Ah. So that was a long-winded way of kind of explaining. But yeah, I kind of fell into corporate thinking like, I don't really know what I want. So let me go after what everybody else wants.
Hmm.
And that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. There's this way that, like, as you know, like my abbreviation for it is like, the way we get into like good girl programming, but it's really anytime we externalize who we are or what we're going after, it just inevitably leaves us with that dangling carrot that like never comes close. And it always ends with this realization. Well, it doesn't actually. Some people don't realize it, that we've like self-abandoned to be where we are. And the way I talk about it sometimes is that the soul will like destroy where we are to survive, or we will get destroyed. Like it's one of
Yeah.
the two. The soul is like, I'm going to burn this shit down so that we can like survive. Like there's a limit to how much we can self-abandon and like still be here, I think.
Yeah. In that Pluto square Pluto, my fiance at the time dumped me out of the blue.
Yeah.
And
Thank God.
I got laid off from
Yeah.
my big fancy job. And I was left to like, holy shit, what do I do now?
Hmm. Yeah. And I don't know about you. and we're not going to talk about mine this episode, but yeah, we all have our own versions of those stories or something like it. And there's a way that in the moment it's everything is crumbling around you and it feels awful. And looking back, you're like, oh, thank God that didn't work out.
I kind of want to hear yours, Grace, or if you
Well,
could
there's been a
talk a little
few.
bit about it.
I'm like, which
Yeah.
one? Um, I think the one, if we're talking about job only, a pretty big one that a lot of people who listen to the podcast know about is I had been teaching, I got into teaching Pilates and yoga after my pursuit of getting a full-time dance career didn't work out. So that was its own major crumbling that we'll not talk
Yeah.
about. And then I got to this limit where I realized, I had this kind of teaching schedule. I was teaching all the time. I still couldn't make a certain amount of money to feel like I could really pay my bills. And I still wanted to keep dancing, and this was a way to kind of flexibly provide for myself. And so I realized that I had some chops for admin. I was good at writing grants and producing shows and sort of the back end structure that it takes to really do something and build something. So I thought, why not have a studio? Like, I can do this. So I spent a year raising money and building out a space and like putting together this beautiful studio that I'm really proud of, and it just could not get off its feet.
Mm.
And there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. And one of the reasons is that was not my destiny.
Yeah.
I remember laying down in the floor I was taking someone else's class in Shavasana. And I was really at this head to head moment where I'm like, something has to change. Like, I need to know, do I need to just go all in even more and make this shit work? Or am I getting kicked out? Is this the universe really trying to kick me out? And I was laying in Shavasana and it felt like the clouds parted and this voice was like, this is not going to work. You need to get out now.
Wow.
It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. It was publicly humiliating. I let a lot of people down. I lost other people's money. I lost my money. I lost a lot of relationships. It was a massive crumble. And 3 months later, COVID hit.
Oh my gosh.
And and that's also another ingredient. But in hindsight, I realize how that wasn't it. It was the next, I learned so much from it. I learned things that you can't learn any other way. I'm grateful for those lessons. And it was extremely difficult. And I'm grateful that like there's a way that how I look at life before that, but even more now, it's like the universe or my destiny, that alive thing that I'm here to embody or chase or feel the pulse of, cares enough about me to fuck up my plans when they aren't it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I feel that hard.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, brick and mortar is such a thing that I've never had to do like on my own or be like in charge of, and much respect for that. But
Mm.
yeah, the me getting laid off and losing my partner and my job gave me like a little permission to pivot for a while. That's when I started teaching yoga. That's when I became a full spectrum birth worker. I was doing all these things, and then I got called back in. It was almost like the test in a way. Like I still had more to learn on like, is this really what you want? And it's hard too. Like when the bottom falls out, learning how to trust yourself and trust future you to like make those decisions and to be on the next right step, which that's the funny thing, right? Like we're always doing the work.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
sometimes you can't see it always in the moment until you like get so far ahead and you can look back. But yeah, I had to go back and learn some lessons, and I have to say like the paycheck was really hard it was very seductive, especially when you've lost everything and now suddenly you're trying to make it like start over again. Yeah, I got seduced. I got seduced
Yeah.
by
I mean,
that sexy muse.
it's a sexy thing. And I think I mean, money is a whole other topic. I've never had a
Totally.
salary like my entire life.
Uh,
And so I think I have this more, sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, relationship with
mhm.
money and the flow of it. Um, and I'm also highly aware in listening to you talk that like two people can go through a really similar experience and have very different outcomes. Some people can go through, like, I think about the times in my life where I was just squeezed with money, and they ultimately were very liberating for me to where I'm like, I could literally run out of everything, and I know the universe has got me. And other
Mhm.
people go through that and they come out just more afraid, you know? And
Yeah.
so, not that one is, everybody's doing what they need to be doing. So, this is not from a place of judgment. Everyone's
Right.
having the journey they need to be on at their own pace. Do what you're doing, but it says something about like your own, the things that you ultimately want and how tasty they appear to you, that like you've ended up doing what you're doing now and followed the whispers and the slithers to be where you are now, as opposed to ending up back in a similar conversation where this appeared to be the wrong choice, or like you got to the end and then you kept going.
Yeah, it was like, and it was the right choice for the moment. And I had two really good years back at it, won more awards, and like, felt really
Yeah,
like
this feels
chuffed, and
awesome.
I'm being validated externally. Oh my God, thank you, everyone. I love
Yes.
me too, kind of thing. And then when all that was Neptune Square, by the way.
Convenient.
Seduced. I was seduced by, yeah, it wasn't the money, it was Neptune kind of dangling an illusion of what I thought I wanted.
Yes.
And it was the external validation piece because as soon as that Neptune square ended, all of that magic that was happening, the delusion that I was under disappeared and
Mm.
reality set in. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Get me out of here. And then COVID happened. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like at some point you realize that like checking boxes just leads to more checking boxes. And that's the only game that you're playing. And there's something nice about the security and the I know what I'm doing when I get up in the
Hmm.
morning feedback. Whereas if you sort of chart your own path with a machete off in the woods, it's less certain, where you're like, I have to learn Fox now in order to get to where I think I'm supposed to go and find, the right hoo-hoo to figure out. It's a different way of being in the world. It's a lot
Totally.
more uncertain, and there's less ongoing validation that you're, quote, doing it right, you're going the right direction. It's like, I always think of how the wizard always disappears, like right at the moment where you are like, oh my gosh, is this the wrong thing? Conveniently, the guide disappears.
Oh, I know. It's so not fair that that happens. And it
Yeah.
continues to happen to me. I'm always leaping in different ways into the unknown. And I marveled at it. It's like, I already did this once. You mean I have to do it again? I'm less a brat about it now, but I was a big fat brat on my journey. I have
Mm.
shaken my fist at the earth and sky more
Haven't
times
we
than
all?
I can count.
Haven't we all?
But yeah, that
And
certainty of the path, like the template is clear. It's easy to follow. There's a little bit of you can kind of check out a bit and just be along for the ride. However, at some point it stopped tasting good.
hmm
It wasn't it didn't I wanted to so I worked in death care for a little bit. I worked for a funeral home, again on the marketing side, but it was a small startup and we were like very much in the end of life services sphere. And so I did get to spend some time there. And we talked a lot about I had lost three family members in a 6 week period during the pandemic, and it really just changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I needed to be in grief and my own anger. And so I kind of went to that world for a little bit and spent some time there. And so I think that was a big catalyst too, because you're immersed in conversations about death and dying and the end of life. And one of the regrets of the dying is that, oh, I didn't do the thing. I didn't try. And that I think was part of when it finally came time in January 2023. I actually took that other job because of the benefits plan. It had a sweet, sweet, so sweet retirement package. You could not believe it.
Oh,
That's
I'm
why
sure I
and
could
that's
not. I don't even know
exactly
what
why
that means.
it mean the contributions they were making to the 403b, which is like a non-profit version of a 401k, was like
Hmm.
so good. And I was like, this feels so safe and so like I can just like exhale. And I was really bored, but I was
Hmm.
doing it for the benefits package. And then as soon as we heard they were getting acquired, that all changed and that went away. And suddenly I had my reason for staying wasn't there anymore.
Hmm.
And it was like, okay, we took away your safety net.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a, death is perpetually the teacher of what we're doing here to live, I think. And what you described me, I just picturing, because both of us have that eighth house Libra sun. We're like, oh, in the darkness and the death, everything becomes crystal clear.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
only constant is change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you think you got it? Watch it go away. Something else must be born.
Yeah, and it's this wild adventure now, and so I've stopped trying to need to be certain, and that rears up in different ways. There are times where I'm really in the flow and everything is going great in my terms of success, and then challenges will come. And I think solopreneurship is just such a wild spiritual initiation all of its own because
Hmm.
all of your shit that you thought that I thought I was not going to have to deal with, like that it bothered me about the corporate world, wherever you go, there you are.
That's true.
It's it's all on me,
Hmm.
but I'm
Hmm.
having a really good time.
Yeah. Something I wanted to talk about today, and you said it kind of filtered into this story a little bit. We talked about this tension a little bit when I was on your show a few weeks ago. Um, this tension between the first house of self and me and the seventh house of the other.
Yeah.
And obviously not, I mean, everyone has, the way that the chart is constructed, we're all working in this beautiful realm of tension and relation. And there's something about that axis too that I think is really prominent for the listeners of this podcast. And I know you said it also threaded in a little bit to sort of how you related to your own journey of becoming. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, oh gosh. I mean, I pretty much have been partnered in some way since I was probably about 14 years old until my ex-fiance broke my heart. And then I was intentionally single for 4 years. I mean, honestly, it was so hard because I think this sounds kind of weird. It was the first time I got dumped, really, by someone that I was in
Mm,
love with.
different.
I'd been dumped before, kind of, but it was like, I don't, not really a
Yeah, I don't
big
really
deal.
care.
I was like, I wasn't really into you anyway. I was just here for a good time.
You were just here.
I was just here, just passing through. And then, I had been married and divorced, and we had tried to so I'd always been kind of partnered and trying to work on a partnership in some way. So this one really broke me open, and I realized like all of my relationships that didn't work had something in common, and it was me. Hello,
Hmm.
it's me. So
Isn't
that
that interesting?
yeah, that tension between like if I wanted to change, and I didn't necessarily have this same language then, but if I were to put it in astrological terms today, my challenges with the seventh house and with the eighth house really stemmed from the first house and not really inhabiting that space or knowing what I wanted, knowing who I was. It was always in the lens of who do you need me to be, which granted, as a eighth house stellium person, and my lot of exaltation is also in the seventh house. It's like all of these things, my life was really about the other for so long. But as soon as I started to do this deep work in lots of ways, which really I think just comes back to presence and being curious about myself and what I want and willing to fail and try different things and saying, I thought I really wanted that, but actually I don't. And yeah, sometimes I can be kind of a flake, and that's okay. Actually, I kind of like that about me, right? So really connecting with that part of myself changed how I was in my one-to-one relationships. And it was actually through my current partner, who we've been together almost 7 years at this point, that I was able to actually show up in a different way and be in relation in a different way, be intimate in a whole new experience. And that, I'm going to call it freedom of expression, showed me how, oh no, sweetie, you weren't just codependent in your romantic relationships. That shit was everywhere. I could see it in my work relationships. I could see it in my friendships. And it really just kind of blew things open to where I realized, like, as I change, it's naturally going to impact the seventh. It's naturally going to change the shape of my house of partnership. And that was it's really amazing in some ways because it's one of those things that you can really see uh um what do I want to say, like the ripples through the matrix. Like the subtle ruling the dense, that kind of thing. It's like relationships are one of the fastest ways, I think, to kind of see that impact. And yeah, so I'm neck deep. I want to balls deep, but I don't have balls. I guess I do. I have metaphysical balls. I'm balls deep in like understanding partnership and relationship. And actually, it's been very confronting to revisit relationships of past. And what I realize, like the biggest lesson I'm really sitting with right now, is I've had a lot of close friendships kind of fall away in the last year. But if I wasn't really being truthful and owning the truth of myself, owning my queerness, like owning my occult, esoteric nonsense, I guess, to some people, when I was keeping that from everyone, and then suddenly it's out there to see, it wasn't really fair. They weren't really getting a fair shot at knowing whether I was someone they wanted to be in a relationship with anyway.
Right. And I think that's common. It's something that I see a lot too. It's like there's a way that we're upset for someone for not seeing us, and yet we're actively hiding and protecting because we're so sure that they're not going to understand. We've preemptively rejected ourselves, and it's like we're so afraid of being misunderstood that we just don't even give people a chance to see us. And I think, what you're saying is really important because like we can't even have authentic intimacy. It's ironic because we're sacrificing being who we are for the sake of being close. And
Yes,
the irony is you can't have intimacy if you are not bringing yourself.
100%.
And um and people can tell when we're not doing that consciously or unconsciously. When we're not showing up as all the way, we don't have as much to give. And people want to be in exchange, or the people that you want to be with want to be in exchange.
Hmm.
And I think I definitely had a big history of codependence. And especially in my early 20s is when it really came to a big head. And my romantic relationships was the last stand, I guess, for where that had to eke itself out. I had to resolve it a lot in my friendships, in my, worldview and like how I thought about God. And yeah, the romantic relationships was the last stand. And it's funny because my husband is like, you couldn't have kept like some of that. Like when I tell him about who I used to be, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow.
Which, he's like, you couldn't have kept like a little bit of the people pleasing for me. I'm like, no. But it's sweet because now I can authentically show up in service or generosity. Like if I'm taking a moment to really put the other person before me, it's really from this place of desire and service and love rather than me secretly bargaining to be close to you through manipulation.
Absolutely. And it's my current partner knew corporate me.
Mm,
They
nice.
knew me before I really fully came out of all of the closets. And the fact that, but we've always been, I think because I had done that like 4 years of solo work, I was ready to be in intimate partnership in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through their ability to continually say yes to the person that I'm becoming. And as you know, as an eighth house person, I'm not the same person 5 minutes from now that I am right now. Like you're constantly like, you're born and you die like 6,000 times a day
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And like that is pretty amazing to be able to accept all of that and be in relationship with it. And it was through their love and acceptance. Well, it was through my own love and acceptance first, but then them reciprocating their my love and acceptance that all of this started to kind of ripple out in the rest of my life. And it's something that I treasure often. It doesn't mean our relationship is perfect. In fact, it is very challenging at times to like stay with the tension, stay in the partnership and not like disassociate and check out. Um, but it's something we're both committed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other thing, right? Like when you're in, and people I think get an experience of this without necessarily even knowing astrology or the language of astrology, but there is you and who you are and all of the multitudes and things that you're bringing to the experience or not and then or choosing to not bring, and then there's the other person doing a variation of the same thing, and then your energy combined is its own special thing. It's its own egregore, for lack of a better word. It's its own kind of thought form. And that's something really interesting to explore, is like you're still you, they're still them, but then there's this kind of special entity that is created when you come together.
The we.
The we. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. The we, the third. Yeah. I definitely learned, especially romantic relationships. Just because I grew up so just repressed and fundamental and conventional in my upbringing, there was just a lot of some of like the basic hard knocks of being in those kinds of interactions with people that I didn't know. Like on the outside, I was an adult, but on the inside, I was like pretending to be this like full sexual adult, and I just like wasn't
Mm,
on the inside yet. So there was a lot of hard knocks and learning in public and a lot of um, self-sacrificing that had to get kind of beaten out of me. And I feel really grateful for that now because I think by the time I decided to get married, I realized that like what I was really stepping into, like I'm saying yes to this person, but I'm saying yes to the alchemical container of the we. Like what I'm really saying yes to is how this is going to change me. And
hmm
like being like what I'm really committing to is like that process and saying yes to that in an ongoing way, which includes what you're talking about, this ongoing transformation and with the other and with myself and with the we. Like it's all changing all the time. And it's such a massive teacher.
hmm And also, it really helped me understand not to look at past relationships as failures, but they had their we that taught me what I needed to learn, and then it was over for that period of time. And that like took away the, I guess, guilt and shame of like, what did I do wrong? Or could I have done it differently? Or all of these things that there's really only one person that I ever really lost my shit over, and that was my ex-fiance. I was it that was wow. I was really shocked by how the loss and what I was grieving, what I found out really, yes, the other person, but it was the possibly the alchemical, but more so the dream that I had built up in my mind of like what could be, the potential, the possibility, the imaginal of this like ideal picture that I had in my head that actually just wasn't possible in this time and place. And there was some more growing that I needed to do. And it's interesting because now, thinking about it, if I were to take everything that I've learned and experienced and go back to that moment, I would not choose that person again.
Exactly. Same.
Yeah. And not because
Same.
there's something wrong with them, it's just that's not what I'm about anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's ways that I can see how the way I was participating in the relationship got me the results that happened. And I'm not that person. I'm not willing to be that person anymore. And I don't blame you for what you did because no one was at fault. And it's not even what I want anymore. Like what the we that we had, like that's not even what I want.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's so freeing. It's very freeing from those ghosts of relationships past. They kind of linger sometimes. They
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 can.
they really do. It's like this weird cloud of miasma that was just kind of following me around. But part of the reason is I didn't let it go. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed I what and how it this was I think many people do this. I probably could have moved on a lot quicker, but I would find myself relishing in the nostalgia of the good moments. I would like replay in my mind and in my heart the emotional experience of the all of the beautiful times, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I did it for like way too long, and it really kept me from moving forward. I think I could have, if I had just said, "Yep, you're doing a hard thing. I'm so proud of you. I love you for healing through this, but you got to just not think about that anymore. No matter how good it feels to like go back to that moment and relive it all over again, you know.
Gotta actually let it go.
And actually let it go, and that includes letting go of the good shit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what enabled me to like be ready to move on. And so that's why I think this partner, my partner that I'm with now, I entered it much more intentionally
Mm-hmm.
and not from a place of I need someone else to complete me,
Hmm.
which I can see in the past. I was like, I'm no one if I don't have someone.
Yeah. And so how does, so now I think anyone who is like deep in the study and the practice of astrology, your relationship to timing is really precise is the wrong word, is really dialed in. Like if you're deep in the study and practice of astrology, you're thinking about timing all the time.
100%. It's
And
kind of hard
so
to avoid.
it's kind of hard to avoid. You're always like, what time? It's like, yes, what time is it? What time is it going to be? And these are all the ways that it can go. And I don't know about you, but the practice of astrology has really was something that really fostered a lot of neutrality for me in my own life and also just with the world in general, is because it's like this is what time it is.
Mhm.
And experiencing that in a way that's much more neutral and less personal sometimes, which I think to a degree can be was really healthy for me. But I'm interested more in sort of your thoughts as far as, your brand is called Slow Magick. And so you're thinking about timing, but you're also talking about pace here, right? There's a
Yeah.
way that you're like slowing down and orienting to time in a way that serves people's stories and their relations. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I love this subject. One, like Slow Magic came to me in 2020, in August of 2020. I was in the process of changing my personal offerings while I was still working in the corporate world from alchemy yoga, which is what I used to offer, to I knew I didn't want to do that anymore, but I wasn't sure what the next thing. And Slow Magic just kind of presenced itself, but I didn't know what it was yet. And it turns out what it was the pleasurable experience of stepping into Kairos, the moment. And so I really think astrology helps us understand both Chronos and Kairos and kind of the relationship. So our experience of linear time and then these moments of sacred time where we can really step into this web of life where we're held and supported, and that doesn't always mean that it's easy, but this is really where you can experience something akin in sometimes to like a flow state where time really does seem to kind of slow down. And it was very pleasurable. And this is where I got to reconnect with the self. And what I noticed was my job before COVID, I was on a plane all the time. I had to travel to my clients wherever they were. And the organization, the agency I work for was based in Atlanta. So I was flying back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast all the time because I live on the West Coast. And I was never stationary. I was either always in the air, in a hotel room, in a conference room. And the gift that the quarantine brought for me was I was stationary in one place for the first time in almost a decade. And what I just noticed was the stillness and these moments of Kairos that would open up where I was able to like actually return to myself, to notice these parts of my who I was returning. So it was this like magical kind of weird, and I'm calling it weird in a positive way. It was just strange. It was like stepping into a little pocket of time that I was able to like open up, and there was correlations with the astrology that I was experiencing at the same time. And so I just became kind of enamored with finding this time and space and language to explore the nature of invisible things, which is also the name of my Substack and podcast, and just be with me and be with all of these different things. And it was just so magical that I wanted to like spend more time there. And so slow magic in my definition was just creating intentionally the space like through devotional practice to, I don't want to say capture the moment, but it's like I'm going to show up for these moments. I'm going to present myself and create space for the moment to happen. I'm going to flirt with it. I'm going to court it. I'm going to sing to it and have these like amazing experiences of the more than human world, which really helped me know that I wasn't alone and that I belong just for the fact that I breathe and I exist. And it was just a really beautiful experience at the time when so much of the world was experiencing, one big collective trauma. And so I want to encourage other people that it took that experience for me to like find it, but it was always there. It's always there. We don't need to, but it's really fun to make the space to kind of allow for it to happen, to become approachable to what's present in our lives. And that's really what slow magic is. And then to bring the astrology into it, it is really thinking about how we might use language to communicate and to sing to the moment. So that I don't know if that if I was talking circularly or not, but like that's what I would say about it today.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're touching on something that's really important is that like the capital M moment is always happening.
Hmm.
Like it's not like the Kairos time only is happening when it interjects like a little lightning bolt into our mortal sense of linear time. But, or the way that I've talked about it recently is that if we don't have space for that interjection, when it does interject, it can often feel like trauma.
Hmm.
Whereas if we create space, which requires that we slow down, like we become this more receptive, connected, intentionally relational portal for that moment to interject more regularly. It's like the Wi-Fi signal is on and we're just humming along, pretending to be on linear time while that's constantly sending its signal.
Hmm. Yeah, I found myself in something that I call casual ceremony, which is really just, and I mean, Grace, you know, like high magic, ceremonial magic. There's a
Here
lot
for
of,
it.
I'm here for that too, but there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
it's a
that you
lot of
got to do.
steps. You got to get out all your shit. You got to clean
There's
up all your shit. It's a lot.
there's a lot of rigor around it, and for good reason. So this is not just shit on that. But I just found myself in like these spontaneous moments of kairos where I would collectively within 5 minutes know that this was the time and would not randomly, but it was perfectly orchestrated. I found the objects that I needed in that moment. And to create this like little ceremony, and I called it casual ceremony. And it was just like the most relaxed, kind of comfortable, natural thing. And it was so beautiful to have those experiences. And yeah, it really made me feel connected in a way and available for co-creation in a way. There's a part of me, and it's still there, that gets very focused on what's next and can kind of sometimes want to like take over and drive and control situations and like for a specific outcome that like I'll miss. Sometimes I'll be so focused on that if I'm not aware, like I'll miss what's present right now and the beautiful moment right now and the healing that's available right now. And so this slow magic is really what allowed me to like open up to all of that that was available. You know, it's like there's the thing you think you want, and then there's the thing you really need.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's that beautiful thing that happens when we kind of go through that ringer enough times where like what we want and what is ours start to match. And
Yeah.
then we're getting what we want all the time
Hmm.
because what we want and what is for us have become more tuned.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it becomes this very playful, very pleasurable for me. And yeah, there are times that I have to get shit done and do things, and I try to just open myself to the possibility of like the joy that is still contained even in the things, like seeing everything that I do as a devotion.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I think anything that we do when we learn to bring that level of presence, because like I think that like our presence is actually the gift, is actually the engine. Like you can do all the things that you want, but if your presence isn't there, if you haven't, then it doesn't matter or it doesn't have
Mm.
like the same level of impact. Whereas when you've collected a certain level of your presence and you know how to move with that, you can do so much less and the impact is so much deeper and more
Yes.
powerful, especially when you do consultation work and mentorship, all of that. Like, especially when you're working in transformational fields, especially when you're working with other people. It's like you just move your pinky finger and people are like, and
Yeah.
and it's not because like you did something amazing. It's that like you've just done the work to collect your presence and show up with it.
Hmm. I love what you're saying because it reminded me of like the word that keeps coming to me is like naturalness and acceptance. It's like so much of our doing is, and I'm talking collectively, not necessarily for listeners or for you or I, but we strive, like we're like striving for something. We're trying to push something. We're trying to do this, do that. And just to know that these moments just remind me that I'm actually okay right now. Like this, I have everything I need right now to do whatever it is that's right in front of me. I don't have to go get anything. I'm
Hmm.
complete. That doesn't mean, but that's always changing. It's like it's never the same. What's that quote? You never step in the same river twice. Is that
Hmm.
Confucius? I can't remember who it is. It's somebody much wiser and older than me. But yeah, you don't ever step in the same river twice, and it's the same thing. But being present is such a gift, and it allows like it just creates space for these parts to express themselves, be seen by, if anything, yourself, but also the more than human world, and like call the rest of it home. Yeah, it's like I feel I feel like I'm always in a perpetual state of like psychedelic experience, just breathing. Like,
I think that's a very Pisces rising trait.
yeah, it's like, oh my God, the flowers and the sky. Did you see the clouds this morning? It's just how the world is like so full of beauty.
Yeah.
It's just hard not to take it all in and be like love drunk.
It's true. And not everyone sees it that way. So I think, I'm very much that way too. And it's taken a lot of time for me to orient or to realize that, like, oh, that's a gift. That's a drink people need. And that's juice that I've got, like
Yeah,
an endless supply.
totally.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing with listeners more about, see, this episode is coming out at the end of January. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like listeners to know about, ways that they can be in touch with your work, stalk you on the internet, and all of those fun
Ooh,
things?
yeah, I love positive obsession. Um, my Mars is in Scorpio, so that's why I'm like can get obsessed really easily about things that I love. But yeah, I am on the internet. My website is slowmagick.com, and that's magic with a K. And I am on Instagram at slow.magic, and then on Substack at the nature of invisible things. And I have I guess it's my longest container that is starting in January, on January 24th. And it's devotional astrology and tarot. It's a heart-centered experience of the stars and cards rooted in everyday life. And it's about the creating a relationship with the divinatory arts that feeds your soul in a different way. It's about creating a relationship and your own relationship. It's about creating that context with these divinatory arts so that you can sing to the moment. And when you read somebody else's forecast or somebody else's explanation of what they think this next cycle of time is going to bring, and know whether or not it's resonant with you and how you might have a different take. You might be in a different season. And it's about being in relation with other folks and learning how to trust that and getting to be in community with other people who are looking to expand their experience of the divinatory arts, like out of just the moment where you're trying to resolve a situation or get some information and kind of bring it into that expanded view, kind of just like what we were talking about. Like, oh my gosh, did you feel that gentle breeze coming from the west? Like, seeing how that ties into your divinatory practice and how that relates to your experience for the day. And so we have a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And yeah, we'd love for you to join us.
I'll be sure to put the links for that in the notes below. I know that the listeners here love tarot, they love astrology, and so I'm sure they'll be very hot for some of that. And I think it's really important because I think it's easy, at least culturally, and just how clickbait works to relate to divination from this place. I think, like, should I go out with this person? And then you like pull the death card, and then there's just a lot of like
Yeah.
fear and fatalism and like strange,
Hmm.
strange codependent relationships that we can have with those kinds of exchanges. And so I think what you're doing is really, yeah, it's really powerful and really important for creating your own center in relationship to those
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah. We have to like decolonizing our relationship with the divinatory arts, especially from toxic religious structures, I'll just say, is a huge part of it's been a huge part of like my experience and my it's not necessarily what this course is about individually, but we have room to kind of come up against these things and see some of these maybe extractive practices that we've been involved in, or as you said, that codependent relationship with the cards. Yeah, if the only
Mm-hmm.
time you're ever coming to your deck or to astrology is when you have a need, you're possibly missing out on one of the most amazing relationships like you could have.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And everyone listening, be sure to check out the show notes to connect more with Erin's work and learn more about this container that you can step into if you'd like to deepen your relationship with that. And Erin, is there anything that you else that you'd like to share that you feel like belongs here, but that I didn't ask or make space for?
I am just so grateful for you, Grace, and your work in the world. I so enjoyed Ma and getting to like
Mm,
experience that and feel the frequency that you're carrying. And just, it just makes me feel alive and affirmed in knowing that there are people like you out in the world doing the work that you're
mm,
doing. And I'm just so grateful to know you.
thank you. I feel the
You're so
same way about
welcome.
you. I love that we're ending on a little squishy
I
moment.
know, it's
So,
so gooey. It's so
well, thanks for
delicious.
coming on the show. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.